I can't even imagine. Before I started going.
Okay.
So like one of those old diners.
I didn't make that line, I got that. I can give you.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and call our meeting tonight to order, 7:35, September 17th. Welcome, everyone. Quick announcement to start things off with, make sure you're signing in. If you didn't on your way in, getting food, getting the agenda and everything, we got a sign-in sheet over there with all the other paperwork for today. If you're new to the meeting this evening, welcome. We also have the red folders that are over there that were our sort of orientation folder for persons in our meeting 2 weeks ago. Make sure to pick one of those up if you're new this evening. It's got a bunch of information in it. Happy to go over any questions you have. meeting today. Today is more of a straight business meeting, pretty short agenda as well. The second item that we had was the adoption of the agenda and the approval of the minutes. We have the agenda that we have for tonight. Sorry we didn't get that out to you prior to the meeting, as well as you've had the time to go to the YouTube channel where our meeting minutes are posted. Is there any question on that item? Entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda and minutes.
Motion.
A motion, is there a second? Second. Vote by exclamation, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. I see we got some more of us coming in. Good evening, everybody. Let's see if this is actually working real quick. Our next item on the agenda this evening is the speakers from the floor time. So I've got 15 minutes set aside for anybody that wants to make any kind of comments or address anything from the floor. Do request to be recognized, and if you want to make a request for a specific amount of time, you can procedurally do so. I will allocate you the time that you can use the floor. We have a total agenda item for this time. It's 15 minutes. This is something new that we're doing. I wanted to put this as a standing item on our agendas for persons to have that opportunity to address our council and prioritize it at the top of the meeting rather than our sort of open forum time and the good of the order at the end. Is anyone wishing to say anything before the council? We have time? Yes.
Hi, my name is Teresa. I just have a quick announcement. The Black Law Students Association is actually having a lunchroom meeting on September 23rd at 12:20 in the courtroom over in the law school. They're actually going to be serving lunch. So I have a flyer, and if you guys don't mind, I can forward that to you and you just email that to the rest of us.
Sure.
You can kind of disperse it to your respective schools. That would be great. So I'll let you guys know.
Trustee Lockett, I'll give you 3 minutes here.
I don't even need that, everybody. Greetings, everybody. Brian Lockett here, student trustee. I just want to share, I'm bringing back the campus conversation series. Again, for the second year. Next week will be the first one in partnership with the undergraduate student government president, Colton Newland, and graduate professional student council president, Clay Awesome. It will be in the student center from 3 to 4 in the Cascaskia room. Cascaskia room, that name, y'all. Right, really close to Wisconsin. Okay, so please, the topic is building the best SIUC. And that's just pretty much a think tank. An opportunity to say, hey, there will probably be administrators in this room, say, hey, this I feel could probably help boost this university. I need this. Help me with this. I need to know this. So it's pretty much not a bashing session, and information on what we need as students to prosper and for the university to prosper around us. Thank you. 3 to 4, Wednesday, September 25th. The Cascaskia. There you go. Cascaskia. Brandon, I'll ask Clay, Diana, and Lindsay to send it all to you all as well. Please share it. Bring anyone. Please. Thank you. That's it. Appreciate you.
Yeah. I'll take a minute here on this line item to jump in. So with this item, just breaking it in a little bit, like I recognized for the 2 and then the 3 minutes. If there's something that you want to expand on, or an individual ever wants to expand on this agenda item, you can always request more time. So like if somebody starts engaging, there's some discussion based off of something you said with your initial time. A motion can be advanced to request additional time, or even vote on the additional time within that item. And so in the sense that we got into a discussion about the campus conversation series there, we got into a discussion about the event with the law schools. Someone can request more time to say, oh, hey, I know my 2 minutes is up. Can I get another 2 minutes to continue to talk about this? And just a request is something I have the discretion to be able to do. You can also motion to basically vote to force the chair of the council, myself, to actually get that member more time to talk about what they want to talk about. That's my minute there. Any other speakers from the floor? If there are none, I would entertain a motion. That would be the procedure that we would use to move by. I'm always going to schedule, even if I don't have anybody signed up, something on our agenda of like 10 or 15 minutes for this item, just to provide the opportunity for anybody that wants to come request that time, so not to shortchange the opportunity for anyone. But procedurally, the way we'll do it is I would entertain a motion to move on from this agenda item, seeing that there are no other persons that want to step up and use that time that's been allocated to that agenda item. So there's a motion for us to move on from that. I would entertain it. Motion. Second for that? Second. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, we'll move on. All right, new business for this evening. One of the major things that we needed to do for early on is approve our budget. So last week in the packet itself, there were a couple of sheets in there. We had our FY19, so that's fiscal year 19, that's last year. Fiscal year is ending on the 30th of June. So this past June, we ended our previous fiscal year 2019. We've begun this fiscal year, which is fiscal year 20 or FY20. So you have the cash flow sheet from all of our deposits and debits through GPSC, and where that money went, where that money came from. In the packet last week, you also had that on a sheet for this week. I don't know that I grabbed that one. I did. It's on the back of the resolution that you have for this evening. And then you also have the budget that was provided in the packet last week, as well as that same FY20 budget sheet. And the numbers for the FY19 and FY18 actual. I also went ahead and drew up a FY20 budget breakdown that goes over all of those primary line item categories. It's that big FY20 budget. It's really just talking about the different buckets of money and the way that we categorize those. It's not talking about how that money within that bucket gets divided up. Particularly like operating expenses is a category. We pay a number of things out of that sort of budget category to get to that $1,600. Well, the FY20 budget breakdown sheet, which is a 2-pager to go with the resolution this evening, goes into more detail for each of those items, so you can see how the $82,675 that we are budgeting to spend our expenditures is broken down by the compulsory and discretionary withdrawals, and then you also have our cash reserves as a part of those total expenditures. Just going through and explaining each one of these. I will say, I am very sorry to not get this resolution and the additional budget breakdown out to everyone prior to the meeting. It's been, I was talking about it earlier with Lindy, it's kind of a death by 1,000 paper cuts is what I've been going through for the last couple of weeks, trying to get everything up off the ground. And we don't normally go through this formality for the budget, but I wanted to do that this year. So we have the resolution. I just kind of threw one together. I will not necessarily read it. It's requested. It's essentially just authorizing us within the capacity that is outlined within the Constitution to make good on the budget as we outlined it for you all. Yeah. Any questions? Any discussion? To give you some highlights, we're looking to make $82,000 in expenditures. Granted, 10% or approximately 10% of that is cash reserves. The explanation of the cash reserves is there at the very end of the second page of that breakdown sheet. More or less, those are kept on hand to cover us when things like the estimated revenue that we're supposed to receive from the student fee allocation, if there's a shortfall in that we're covered. And so we've got a little bit of extra cash on hand so that we can actually make it through the end of the fiscal year and cover all those bills. We can cover the programs that we have. So it's a little bit of a safety net for us. It's also a safety net if we end up going over, in the sense that we just miss it and we go over a budgeted category, or in the sense that something else comes up. There's some new expense that we didn't have budgeted that we needed to get covered. So we do have about a 10% cash reserves that we set aside. In addition to that, discretionary, we're going with it's a period instead of comma, whatever. 17,500 in career development reimbursement awards. That should approximately cover something on a ratio of about 100 is a $150 amount, and 35 is a $75 amount, which is pretty good for this year. 14,000 for the fee allocation board, which covers something in the range of like 14 RSOs with an average application award of $1,000. It's a little bit trickier to budget for that because the amounts kind of span a great deal of area. But drawing it up did look at sort of what our average award amount was, and it does fall within a meaningful amount of standard deviation of around $1,000. Research awards, we've got $5,000 earmarked for that program. That's the amount that we like to stick around, giving out 5 awards at about $1,000 or up to $1,000 a piece. There were no questions. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing our budget for the year. Or more than happy to take any questions.
Motion to adopt.
Motion on the floor is a second.
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 Thank you. Yeah, procedure I'm more comfortable with still on from the floor. All right, we have a second from the floor. Thank you, Diana. Move to a vote. All right, we vote by exclamation. All those in favor of adopting the budget and resolution R1920-004. Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same side. Seeing none opposed, motion passes. Much. All right. Next item of business, or items of business, coming from the fee allocation board. We have a couple of funding bills to consider.
Yes. The fee allocation board had a fun and exciting week. We met with the International Student Council last Thursday. They had made a request for their fall picnic, which took place this past Saturday on September 14th. Looking historically at them, when we met with them, they had requested $8,000 for this singular event. They do host multiple events throughout the year. We did kind of look at them and look at their proposal, and instead asked if we could review the entire year, kind of because they do host several events. So they do host a summer, fall, and spring picnic, as well as international games, which occur in the spring. And their largest event and fundraiser is the International Food and Cultural Festival that happens in the spring as well. Last year, we were able to give them a total of $1,500 for the academic year. This year, we are suggesting that we increase that range. So we did recommend $1,800. But want to bring that to the floor. Although that money was transferred so that they could use a portion of that for their fall event, they were told that that motion would come, or that had to be agreed upon by the council. And so the council can say that they would like them to have less. You can also bring conversations to the floor that you would like to consider providing them a little bit more. As you can see, the amount that we all just approved as far as our overall academic year budget for GPSC, our overall event funding this year is estimated at $14,000. So this is an increase also based on because last year we only had a $9,000 budget. for that. So this is a reflection of that increase of budget overall for the year. Any questions or dialogue from the floor regarding the recommended amount? All right. With no questions or discussion, would anybody like to make a motion to approve that GPSC provide the International Student Council with $1,800 to be spread out throughout their events throughout the year? We did emphasize that should be focused on the International Food and Cultural Festival, but they would be able to use that money at their discretion. Motion. Is there a second from the floor? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. So the motion passes. I will follow up with them tomorrow to let them know that that motion did pass. We also did have a visit from the Iranian Student Association regarding the same event. We were able to advise them on some of the things that they were unaware of, and so after our meeting, they did pull their application. There's no really reason to talk about it any further, but just wanted to let you know the transparency that meeting did occur, and that other recommendations for future actions did occur as well and took place. And then today we did have the opportunity to meet with the Student Bar Association for their upcoming spring event, so they are getting a big head start. That is for the Barristers Ball. Is there anybody who's unfamiliar with this? It's a traditional law school event that GPSC has supported for multiple years. The individual who we met with is in the room and can help answer some of the questions that might come from the floor. But this is an opportunity. What this is a kind of no questions about the event, not in detail. Well, I will give you an overview. So this is a celebration. This is both a recruitment opportunity. This is a celebration of our law students that involves the campus of the law school, both their students, their faculty, their alumni. It is a networking opportunity. It is a traditional opportunity. I don't know how long it's been on this campus for, but this is something that happens across the nation at all law schools. And so we participated in multiple ways. It's our way also, since we have many law school students who serve on GPSC, we've come to recognize the significance of this event and its impact it has on our current law school students and our future law school students. Last year, we did give the law school $2,000 towards this event, knowing that they do have a larger incoming class, a potential larger amount in volume of people, and also because we do have an increase within our budget, we had suggested that we provide them with $2,250, an incremental increase from last year, to accommodate any additional expenses that were not anticipated at this time. Any questions from the floor? Discussions further about the event itself? Or you can even ask our presenter about the event if you have any additional questions.
What was the recommended?
The recommended amount based on the communication that occurred was $2,250. Just because there is the expectation of an increased volume of people, simply because they had a much larger income class. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yes. Yes.
Sure, you can speak on that.
Yeah, well, I got my image from my meeting.
But any questions? Any comments? All right. So since there's no questions on the floor, would anybody like to make a motion? Looking at you, law school. Wink, wink.
What are we doing?
We're making a motion to pass the.
We motion to forward with the proposal.
All right.
Yeah, and technically can serve as your second too, because the committee doesn't need a motion for the resolution.
So I would, yes, I would make that motion. That would be my second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that motion also passes. We will be reaching out to the Office of Student Engagement tomorrow and making sure that is transferred into your account.
I'm going this year.
Any more business for the fee allocation board?
No, just a report of money spent, allocated thus far.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's my other packet.
Entertain such report.
Sorry. So, as of today, not including any, we did have one other person that weren't able to process that, including the addition of the $2,250. We have provided a total of $3,050 towards event funding. I would have to do the math in my head on what that means as far as what's remaining. I can figure that out. Let's see, what is that math? Yeah, maybe. And then as far as travel funding, we've paid out $1,575. We have $15,925 remaining. I also just wanted to give you a reminder that those forms are, if you ever have questions regarding travel funding and or event funding, those forms are available on the GPSC website. You can also email me directly. We do take the travel funding form by email, or you can also drop that off to our offices. Our offices are located on the 3rd floor of this building in the government suites. You can take the escalator up, and that will drop you off exactly in front of our door, or you can just turn the corner if you're taking the elevator up. I find that some people find that confusing. Escalator's your best bet, because it just takes you right up to us. We do have a pending, we will be meeting, our next fee allocation board meeting will be on October 1st. So if you or any of your colleagues do have an event that's coming up that they need to make requests for, please make sure to send those submissions to us sooner than later, so that way we can get you on our presentation calendar. For those who aren't familiar with the fee allocation board too, just in case you're also asked that question, what happens is that they will reach out to us with our application. We will confirm that we received that, schedule a presentation time so they can meet with our board members, tell us a little bit more about their event, and it allows us to ask more questions and also provide guidance. And then we are able to then, based on that information, provide the recommendation to the floor, and then be able to process that through the Office of Student Engagement. For those who have questions about our travel funding, remember, if there's anybody in the room that is attending the conference, that you can just submit that form as a separate form than your departmental voucher or departmental request. That form is also on our website, and you can request that prior to going to the conference, as long as you've registered and shown a financial investment in going. So most other mechanisms for giving you travel funding on campus is post. So that is an opportunity for you to get that in, hopefully sooner than later. Any questions about the allocation board, the application process? Thank you.
Move on to our next item. Next item is committee nominations and appointments. So on the back of the agenda this evening, I printed again the one sheet for all of our committees. There are a few nominations that have come forward on some committees, but to bring something from my own report forward, I guess, for this line item, there are a number of committees that I don't have persons that volunteered for, that those in charge of those committees are bothering me a great deal for our nominee. And need to get back to, in particular, our parking and traffic, either the appeals committee or the parking and traffic policy kind of committee. So one is the appeals for basically tickets. The other is the policy committee that reviews things like, well, how different parking lots are stickered, like the hours, different aspects of the traffic and parking on campus, and its policy and design is that committee. So both of those, parking and traffic. I don't know if we determined for intercollegiate athletics what we're doing for that one.
You had mentioned, you had suggested you had an interest in that.
Yes.
I was holding that. I have held that position for the past, but I wanted to give you that opportunity if you were interested. They usually meet, in the past they've met on Wednesdays in the afternoon. And that is based, but they do determine that based on the overall committee and their commitments. I'm happy to serve as your proxy if ever you can attend. That you will provide us with your name and contact information when you leave, so that way, because they are going to be setting that meeting up sometime soon.
Getting you in as the nominee, particularly for these big campus-wide ones, these are mostly the ones that are also convened through the office of the chancellor. Getting your nomination and communication of that in early means that you'll be involved in the scheduling of like reoccurring meetings over the course of the semester, and so getting that input and your availability will make it so that you can have a successful experience on that committee.
I should note that one meets once a month. Yes, I believe that one of the parking and traffic meets every 2 weeks, or is it just once a month? Like one of them was like, because they're reviewing the tickets.
The appeals one, yeah, probably
I think it's every 2
needs a
weeks.
little bit more
Yeah.
frequently, so there will be a constant sort of agenda of appeals. I know parking and traffic doesn't necessarily mean that there's policy committee.
I think they do meet once a month. That's the committee. Do you remember? Have you ever noticed that we have someone that's seated around tickets and now they get boots on their car? That's the committee that determined that. And put that as a policy in place. So those are the kind of things that they do. They also will like determine, so for example, when our tower had closed, they were the ones that determined that certain lots would have to be moved from student lots to residential lots. So they make those type of concessions across campus. Whereas the pills, you literally will listen to people's requests that their tickets fine be appealed and that they not be fined. So that is very action oriented. You will actually do something in that committee, so it actually needs to actually has an end product as an instant gratification. Or if your roof is no pills.
All right. Well, if there's anyone that would like to volunteer to as our nominee or appointment, depending on the committee, it's a privilege that we have, nominee or appointment to one of these committees, let me know. Most of these, I believe, we have openings for. The ones, it would be easier to articulate the ones that are not currently open. Campus-wide assessment committee, there's not an opening for. Diversity council, there's not an opening for. Diana, I'm not sure if you need any further persons for student fee allocation.
I think our group is pretty full at the moment, so we're good.
All of the HLC listed, I don't know that they will actually be convening business this year. So I would say that for the time being, the Higher Learning Commission committees are very well likely not ones that there will be business in this year. They've been writing the report that is now more or less complete for our site visit in January.
OJ has actually been compiling that report.
So each of the committees is only going to meet one more time.
Yeah, for the revision stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I imagine that those were going to be the HDDSA committee. We don't need a nominee for. If we can volunteer for that, it's the Honorary Degree Distinguished Service Award Selection Committee.
May I make a suggestion? What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass around this sheet. I'm going to have Clay mark off ones that aren't available, and if you're interested in it, if you can put your name next to it, and that way we can see how many people are interested. Some of these do have the opportunity to have multiple representatives, but that way we can kind of get an idea of who's interested, what we need to also find more people for. Is that okay?
Yeah, in any instance, that's sort of the spiel that I even say, that if there isn't a seat on that committee any longer for someone that has an interest in it, it's either a situation where we can request an additional seat in that committee, or there might be another committee that does very similar business, or we can go about the business of creating something where you get the opportunity to still be involved in that aspect of the university. In a way that is still meaningful.
He is working the representative. And then as you're signing your name, what we can do is we can meet with you and or take a moment to answer questions about any particular committees that you might have interest in. Sorry, excuse me. All right, and at this time, as I mentioned, write down your name. I'll have your contact information too, so if you're not able to stick around, sorry, the ones that aren't available are scratched out. But if you are interested in any, feel free to write your name next to this. If you're past that on this side of the room, and if you're past that form on that side of the room.
Particularly if you're interested in traffic and parking. I'm getting an email every like. I think often they do meet on Fridays, and one of these I don't think the Traffic and Parking Committee has scheduled their first meeting, but it's been requested a number of times that I get the nominees to them by Tuesday, September.
If you aren't able to find anyone, I will be the sacrificial lamb.
And maybe the other traffic and parking is for the executive appeals. Right now, the inbox is a little crazy.
I'm happy also to say which ones do meet. Some of these don't really meet that regularly. So do be warned for some of these. It just depends on what issues are coming up that annual year. And some do meet very frequently. So depending on how much you want to be involved, also let us know. If there's certain commitments that might be overwhelming, we're happy to guide you.
Yes.
What does the Multicultural Resource Center board entail? Is it an advisory committee?
Yeah, that's an advisory. Yeah, most of these are advisory, and then a number of them are the policy setting committees, but even then, oftentimes it's sort of advisory.
Yeah, I will note that one does not meet as frequently. And so because it's advisory, you can always call for meetings. You can always, if there's something that's happening that you think needs, and you can, if maybe like, but they just don't really meet. But if there's something that you want to bring to the table regarding the resource center and things that might be lacking, you can always communicate with those who are on that advisory board and note that they don't meet as frequently. But you can make things happen. So I'm saying you can make things happen. Let's see. If anybody wants to know which ones don't meet frequently, I can also point those out to you.
Quite an example committee meets at most twice.
The non-traditional student services used to meet frequently when it was under a different advisor, but now it does not meet as frequently. They will send out emails occasionally, but I will notice on that one that if you really wanted to form your own committee and be the leader of it, the person who's in charge of that says that's fine. That you can do your own thing and kind of think about ways to support non-traditional students, which include, because I was on that in the past and it did meet frequently. And I know people want to do more who have served on that in the past, but they don't currently meet that frequently. Rainbow's End does not, I guess they do, that's a child, so if you're an individual who maybe work or do services for children, they will meet on occasion, but not necessarily as frequently. I was thinking of, there was one that we had that didn't meet that Anna was on. It was the LGBTQ Advisory Committee does not meet frequently. But if someone was passionate enough and wanted to kind of take leadership, I mean, very honest, it's just a matter of like, well, if you can create the agenda, if you get schedule a room and you want to host that, and you have ideas and you're committed to making those happen without my involvement or neighbor, then go for it. That's pretty much what I've been told. As long as you do the work, you can share as much as you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we'll say that is a sort of transition to our next agenda items. Yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
I know this one though.
The Student Affairs Advisory, what does that entail?
It's going to be an advisory committee that is helping essentially that division. So we have the whole Student Affairs division. Basically, it's a committee that is convened by the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs to help deal with policy questions, to help incorporate some shared governance into the executive leadership in that area. And at times, if there is something that needs to be done within that area, and there's some committee work or something that needs more persons than just someone that is an employee in the Student Affairs Division somewhere, that advisory committee can sort of be tasked or requested to do some of that committee work so that there are more voices involved in that than just persons that really have their job in that division. So an analogous one is like the Chancellor's Planning and Budget Advisory Committee. It's an advisory committee, so by and large, it's a bunch of voices from all over campus that hear about basically the books of the university and how we're planning in the context of our finances as a university. But right now, we also had the question of whether or not we should make any kind of changes to tuition and fees. And so now there's a subcommittee that is actually really doing committee work that would be submitted from that advisory committee for the Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance to consider, because it's more or less sort of chaired or led by the Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance, and convenes through sort of that office on behalf of advising the Chancellor's planning and budgeting for the university. And so for the most part, it's about hearing things, contributing them, giving that perspective from various parts of the campus versus it only being persons within that unit, that department, that division, having a part of the governance of that aspect of the organization. But it also can be something where you're making larger contributions to the policy or the decision-making or the actual work that needs to be done for that area of the university as those specific items come up.
One that I would really like, I know, I can tell you other ones that do meet frequently. The Fine Arts Activity Fee Committee meets very often. They're the ones that sponsor a lot of the great events across campus. But there's a lot of issues that have come lately of our turnover of our healthcare provider. And if we can have students that are able to talk about some of the things that students are facing in that turnover, or they can have better to communicate with students in the future. They actually do review contracts with our healthcare providers every year. And so it's an important committee, but it usually needs students to kind of steer in the right direction and be strong voices. So if someone has had any difficulty with health insurance this year, it'd be great to have an advocate in the room that can talk from personal experience about how things can be better. That's just my personal opinion.
Before we got to give budget,
Oh, sorry.
that was answered, okay.
Let me make a suggestion. When do we need to fill these roles? Is there a deadline?
Some of these, there are deadlines, like the traffic and parking, they're requested by a certain date. Some of the others, they have the understanding of this, like as expediently as possible so that they can get their meeting scheduled, or because a meeting is coming up very soon. Others that meet less frequently, or meet when members of the committee want to bring business before the committee, less of a deadline.
So my suggestion would be if we could have all these and then like a little blurb about what they do. I think it would save some time. What they do and like the time frame in which they meet, whether it's infrequently or not. I think if more people had more idea on paper, so okay, this is what this stuff would be. I think it'd be easier to get to.
Actually, we're looking for our document.
Okay.
Yeah, we have these some of
We
those.
talked about that, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I agree with that, because those people bothering you, like, if they really want us there, they'll give you, you know, like,
I'll give you a blurb or something.
because, I mean, I'm interested, but I'm a law student, obviously, we're all busy, so I can't just say, sure, I'll join, without knowing kind of what the commitment is.
Sure. Well, I think what I would like to do is I would like to, motion that we finalize these two that have urgency, or was there another one that has urgency? And either nominate, or if not, if no one comes forward from the floor, I mean, I'm happy to volunteer for those so that we have a name in place.
Yeah, we can get that figured out by the end of the week. We don't necessarily have to do it in the meeting. And if it's a situation where you are not sure if you can make that commitment, at least communicate the idea that you're interested, because then I can reach out via email or a phone call to the person that is either the administrator that assists the committee or the person that is chairing the committee at that time to ask like what your targeted question is. Because it might be something that I don't have a very good answer to in the sense of, well, how often is this going to be this year? Because depending on what's coming before that committee, it might be a great deal or it might not be very much. Like chancellor's planning and budget, I've sat on that for 2 years now. 2 years ago, it was like maybe we meet once, well, we meet once a semester, but sometimes it was 2 or 3 times. But now there's a subcommittee that's meeting, I think, like 3 or 4 times in a 30-day period of time. Because there's something very specific that's being done. And we're meeting, I think, the full committee 3 times this semester. So they can vary with them. So yeah, if there's a question like that, just communicate that over, and I'll try and get that that information back to you as quick as we can. But on this item, we should try and move forward. We are sort of past our time for it. If there's more questions or discussion,
any final questions before we move forward? So next step actions.
Yeah, seeing none, we'll go over to officer reports. First that I have on here is administrative affairs, Diana.
We have, so here's some things I did want to discuss, because if anyone in your department might be facing this, Clay's going to be investigating this, but we have had some issues. What we do is the fee allocation board is that when we're granting someone money for travel funding and they're an international student, they're actually taxed on an addition for any of that money that's granted to them. So we actually cover that tax for them. So if we say we're going to give them $150, we make sure that they get $150 in a check. That means that we often have to pay out like $175 because they're being taxed a certain portion. What's happened is we've had a delay in that office of processing that type of funding, because it has to go through our accounts or it has to go through our accountant and OSC, and then it has to channel through the international tax office, and then it goes to accounts payable, and then it goes to the postal system. So if you are an international student, you're making that request, you might see a hiccup. It might add to the delayed time. But there's also has been an issue because they've also had struggles processing contracts. So there's a lot of international students who have not been paid for the last 2 pay periods because their contract has not been processed because it's stuck in that office. So we're investigating that, but on our end, we've had a lot of people say where's happening with my money, what's happening with our checks, and we haven't really heard much response yet. The person who used to handle that is not handling that. Now, what happened is that during the reorg and during the transition of budget cuts, because they're a different administrative role that isn't necessarily focused on the academics, they had a lot of cuts in that office. So a person is having to do spend much more plates, juggle many more balls than they had in the past, and it has created this, what I think is serious problem for our international students who already, especially if they're new, how to move here, pay fees, pay unexpected fees that they're not used to because it's different cultural standard and U.S. standards and regulations, like getting shots when you're coming to a new college campus, things like that, paid out of pocket. So, if you have any money in your classes, in your colleagues, in your department, and your colleges that are facing these issues, they're welcome to reach out to us. The more that we understand the difficulties, the better that we're able to communicate that to administrators. So that to me is a big issue right now that we're trying to help resolve. And as you're doing that, if everybody's filled out those committee sheets, I'm going to come around and grab those and you put your name next to any of those. One that's that, and one's on
What? Well, I'll be honest, don't do that. Don't do that.
Are y'all still filling out that form?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, that's great. Did you need that form back? That form you're we can make sure we do. But that's the end of my report.
We can start multiples of that sheet too.
Oh, I had two, but they're almost done.
Okay.
Yes.
Alright.
Yes, absolutely. You can put your name down for more than one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like this.
Oh, yeah.
There's my space. You can absolutely put your name down for more than one. Yes.
Yeah. Next item that we got on the agenda is report for Lindsay, graduate school affairs.
Often be a part of those type of things.
Well, we, the graduate council representatives and I attended the graduate council meeting September 5th, so also if you council members, if I missed the announcement, feel free to jump in, you know, very collaborative, there's a chance I might post something. So, I'm just gonna give kind of a snapshot, highlights of what we went over. One of the big talking points was our enrollment numbers, which I'm pretty sure, everyone's heard something about them. There's a news report, daily Egyptian, all that kind of things. But overall, the enrollment decrease is a little less than 9%, it's at 8.75%. But there was an increase in sophomore and junior retention and junior senior retention. So they're saying, like, even though our numbers are down, we're still maintaining some level of retention with our current students, and that's actually really good. There was a hit in our international enrollments currently because it's very difficult for people to get visas and appropriate documentation in order to be students here. So a lot of people are pretty disappointed in that. Despite that fact, there is still 20 different nations in the new group of international students, which is good. Additionally, they are, Judy Marsh and a team of people are discussing our current budget for the institution. There's a potential reduction in budget of 3%, but they're not hardlining that just yet, so they're going to be reviewing that information and kind of making some decisions. There is a current search on for the president of our system, but that's up to the trustees, and I know Brandon left, so I was going to ask if you had anything to add, but we know that's currently in process, but they still need to initiate the search for the actual chancellor as well. We did also, which I think I mentioned the last week, have 22 new faculty welcome to campus. Additionally, 35 positions were approved for searches for the year to start in fall 2020. Research Expo. Dr. Shi, our new Associate Dean and Director of the Graduate School. Yeah, please.
If we can try and keep the discussion amongst the tables a little bit quieter, just so that we can all hear Lindy's report well enough, please.
Okay, thanks. I know I'm trying to be loud, but maybe not loud enough. So we had remarks from Dr. Shi, our new Associate Dean and Director of the Graduate School. He mentioned as a synopsis that he's developing a strategic plan for the school for the next few years, that he's probably going to bring a current first draft to our next general council meeting. So if we receive a draft of that, we can bring that to kind of go over. I won't touch on the things that he mentioned because he did mention that it was in its draft state. They were asked for some 10-day numbers for the graduate students. So we have a total of 2,683 students. Overall, we're only down 36 students from our previous year. So yes, we're down, but they were saying that overall it's not as bad. It's about 1%. And the international numbers are down a little bit, and there's about 42 as an overall drop in the PhD level, but an increase in masters. So we kind of end up with the 36 students that were down overall. And that is generally it, except for one more thing, which is I had a meeting with Retta Seymour from our Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research, because there is, I briefly mentioned it, I think the last meeting that we did, there was a research expo coming up on October 2nd, so that is officially happening now. And I met with the person who's overseeing it, and she had some really specific things that she needs help with, so I'm going to highlight what those specific things are and ask that if you or people in your departments are willing to volunteer for any of these things. Yeah, I have little flyers and everything. I'm on this. Right. So I'll briefly say what I am going to hope I can get volunteers for, either again from this group or from your departments. I'm going to be passing around. These are little like kind of mini flyers that you can take back to your departments. I only have 5, but she said if I need more, I can get them. So feel free to take one. Don't worry about, oh, there's not enough. And then if you need one and didn't get one, let me know. I only have one of these, but same thing goes. If you really want it, you can take it. And then everyone else can let me know they want one. So yeah, just pass around, take one if you want to put it somewhere in your department. Okay, so what they're looking for help with is, first off, is October 2nd. It's a Wednesday. It's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're looking for about 6 to 8 people to volunteer at any time during that day in any period of time. So you don't have to be there all the time. Maybe you can only do a half hour, maybe you can do an hour, where you kind of be helping direct people, handing out materials, potentially answering questions about the schedule, just general help with like the actual event. So potentially some help there. She's looking for 2 people, actually 1 person, because I already got a volunteer, so I need 1 more person to potentially complete a 5-minute presentation about any research that you're currently doing, especially if it's research that, this is kind of focused on getting undergrads interested in research. So if you have a research topic that might kind of motivate or get kind of an undergrad interested in the field or program, or kind of like lead them in a path that like would keep them here potentially, that's kind of what they're looking for. So it would be a 5-minute presentation. Like I said, I need 1 more because I already have another person who said yes. And you just in your 5 minutes would answer, what is the research, why is it important, what's the key takeaway about the process, kind of who did you work with and what were the findings. So kind of like a brief, quick talk, get them excited. I need 2 to 3 people to do a poster session where you would obviously create kind of a poster about your research. They have a couple of those temporary walls they move around that they're going to put the posters on. So if you're willing to kind of put it in a synopsis of your research, that would be excellent. It'll be kind of in the expo space, so it'll be frequently walked by and looked over. So if you're interested in doing that, that would be great. Additionally, GPSC has agreed to have a table there. So as representatives of GPSC, if you're willing to table for us, so you can talk about kind of all the opportunities that we do, whether that's like travel funding for like professional conferences or kind of our research awards, things like that. It'd be awesome if you could volunteer time at the table. And then also they're interested in any sort of social media or telegiver classes that you'd be willing to do. And if you need the social media snapshots or like the art, they said that they can provide that to you if you're interested, so you just have to let me know. So that is that. Is there anyone who's kind of interested in maybe any of these opportunities at all by any chance? Because I can talk to you afterwards.
What's the date again?
Wednesday, October 2nd. And it's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The 5-minute presentations are workable based on your schedule. So if you're interested in the 5-minute presentation, just let me know, and then I will tell them your schedule. As far as volunteering, that is also based on your availability during that day. So Ryan, you interested? Okay. Yeah, anyone else that's kind of, you don't have to, this doesn't have to be committal right now, it's just if you're kind of interested, and then I can talk to you in further detail.
No one's ever mad at 4 people.
Right, because what I'll do is I'll just touch base with you and you can tell me if it's possible or not. Okay, Ryan, anyone else interested? Okay. What I would love for you to do too is take this back to your departments, because maybe if someone else might want to do this, or maybe this is the first time they've had a chance to kind of present on their research, this is also a really cool opportunity to kind of like soft do it before maybe you go to a conference. So kind of sell this as an opportunity for that too. So again, as a reminder, general volunteers I need 6 to 8. 1 more 5-minute presentation, potentially 2. They did say 2 to 3, so I have 1. So if 2 more want to do it, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. And then 2 to 3 poster session, and then also if you're willing to sit at the table. So that is what I have for the expo. And then the final thing for this report is that they also asked us as GPSC, is there anything else that that office can do to be of service to GPSC and grads as a whole? So you don't necessarily have to answer that now, but if you have goes, yes, but you can.
I felt thinking about what that office had accomplished in the past or the resources that they provided. I think that as we are trying to find our own funding, for larger projects, things like that, I think if they did like a mini workshop or something that they can help inform, like here are places, like here are websites you can go to, here are different arenas, this is what the application technically looks like, here's what just those the good, bad, and ugly of grant writing, you know, and what that means, what that looks like, timelines for different places.
Yeah.
And just other areas of like outside resources, whether that is also scholarships or anything where, you know, that's what, you know, they used to have a larger staff that helped with that. Finding those type of resources.
Got it, for sure. Anyone else have anything that they would like to send as a request to the Office of Vice Chancellor for research that I can take on behalf of GPSC?
I think also what might be nice, and I think the library and the Center for Teaching Excellence already does this, but they might want to also, in this kind of mindset of mini workshops or resources, talk about like the publication process. So those who might be a little intimidated by that, and wanting to know, you know, a little bit more about just procedural, you know.
Anything else? And again, you don't have, if you have thoughts later, feel free to let me know. I won't be meeting with them for at least another week or so. So if you do have feedback, feel free to email me. Lindy.Wagner. Yes, Diana, I'm ready.
All right, another thing that might be good is I always think that we talk about having like a cross-campus support system. I also want to promote the different conferences that happen on this campus and create like a calendar on their website or things like that. And so that way people like the WGSS conference, the English conference, anything like that where we need more of our own students to participate at various capacities, and they can help in promoting that and listing that on their own websites make sense.
Yeah, it's kind of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially since it's like,
I mean, like, it's like, if you're producing research, you should also be presenting, right? There should be all these different aspects of where does research go.
Which shameless plug, maybe this is a great opportunity to go to the table and also talk about these at those conferences like WPSS, like, right? Be like, oh, here's a place that you can present additional research. Just like, I was just thinking that a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
Because the psychology department, I mean, like the philosophy department, we have lots of conferences on this campus.
That is really true. Okay. Help them there.
As well as publications.
Yes.
Yeah. That's true. I know that was something that some law members brought up before, that like tons of people on campus don't understand. It's just like, we have a very good law journal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't get very much exposure.
Yeah. And just exposure of the journals that take place, the conferences that take place on this campus.
Excellent. We should keep moving on to the next item. Thank you, Lindy. Next item is my own report. So in general, I'm very excited about a number of things that we have going on. The Research and Creative Activities Expo collaboration being one for sure. Diane and I are also getting ready to go and meet with the SIU Foundation, essentially the unit on our campus that helps raise money. We're going to be working with that office to explore some additional fundraising opportunities or avenues that we could use to support our programs. And essentially just find more money to get back to students. And so we'll be working on whatever it is that we can come up with that, and going to be excited to report that back to everyone. I've had a number of different things going on, from different issues to different meetings. So the Board of Trustees did have its most recent meeting. Our budget with that 3% overall reduction was approved by the board. So they haven't necessarily figured out where all of those cuts are going to be, but as far as operating with 3% cuts relative to the previous fiscal year's operating budget, that is where we are. In addition to that, let's see, you kind of covered on the enrollment in the budget, some of the aspects. Drop in enrollment. A very interesting thing that's going to happen, which has been coming up as a part of the committee work that we're doing in the Chancellor's Planning and Budget Advisory. That is something that I'm happy to talk about more as a part of the committee reports. Maybe not this evening, but I can prepare something for folks. But we're talking about it in there, and it'll be something that the campus has to face in general as well, like enrollment will go down probably again next year because we won't really be able to attract enough new incoming and transfer students to replace those that are matriculating or otherwise not returning. So it's sort of the same cycle that we've been stuck in. It won't be anywhere near as large a number as far as percent, but it presents some challenges for the university, particularly where it relates to covering all of our financial obligations to keep the place running. So, right, it's just like we even got more money from the state in our state appropriation this year than what we had in the previous year. It's still not at the levels like FY15, which was sort of like the last regular fiscal year for a number of years. But the state of Illinois gave the university through the system more money, but because there's so fewer students, we're still having to do budget reductions, and we'll very well likely be stuck in the same position for this next budget as well. And we're probably going to end up hearing things in this council from different offices on campus, either asking for more money for the university in the form of tuition increases or in the form of fee increases. And so far in the committee work that's been going on in that Chancellor's Planning and Budget Advisory and the subcommittee, this is not real easy decisions. It's going to be interesting what solution or avenue is proposed, and it's potentially something that we could try and have some greater conversations about, maybe have some kind of ad hoc committee to talk about it as well. I know that this is something that I would like to leverage as part of the campus conversation series that Trustee Lockett brought up earlier. And I think it's something as well that we could try and do a town hall with USG about in the meanwhile, because the proposal for that is going to be coming up in December. If they're going to raise tuition or a fee or both, that's something that they have to present initially to the Board of Trustees at their December meeting. And so it will be here much quicker than what you would think, even though it wouldn't take effect until this time next year. And so there's some weird stuff with that, and it's not real exciting, but it is going on. I think it's something we can continue to consider and talk about in this body. And I like the idea of potentially doing an ad hoc, but is more meetings, but definitely doing that as part of the campus conversation and potentially doing a town hall with USG if we can get coordinated, because I think the undergraduate student voice is part of that as well. Moving into some more just bullet point announcement type of things, continuing to look into the health insurance issue. No one has reached out with any kind of formal follow-up on that, but I do have a good deal of information from some conversations that I've had apart from communication from council members. I have a meeting with the Chancellor scheduled. It is a couple of weeks out. The Chancellor is traveling internationally, I believe, for business for the university, and doesn't return until the first week of October. So still have some time prior to that if you want to share anything. Committees in general, please committees, but we already went over that a bunch. We are continuing, as Diane brought up, looking into the international student pay and the international tax office and some issues that are coming up as part of our award programs and the delivery of those funds, as well as potentially some more systemic issues with the campus and the experience international students are having as a part of that. Looking to try and get some meetings on the books for that, if not just add it to the meeting that I have scheduled with the Chancellor already for that first week of October. Presidential search has gone forward, and the Board of Trustees will be working from a down-selected list that the committee worked over, and they are looking to make an announcement as to the offering of the hire either in late December or early January for either a start date this coming January 2020 or sometime around July or August 2020 for the next academic year. So the university system may have a new president as early as January or February, a few months from now, or sometime in the summer. The search for a full chancellor, not an interim chancellor, on this campus has begun. If there is someone that would like to be one of the nominees that our constituency body sends forward for that search advisory committee, you can communicate that information to me. I have formally received a request for our, I think it's 3 nominees that we sent forward for the selection of 1 appointment to that search advisory committee, but I may have that wrong. It's either 2 or 3. But I don't have a full understanding of the timeline for that committee, but I do believe that I have about a 30-day window of time to get the nominees to that committee for selection, and then the meetings will be determined going forward once that membership of the committee has been determined. But so the chancellor's search for our new chancellor is underway. They are going through the process of building the advisory committee for that search, and more details will continue to follow as I learn more.
Question on that.
Yeah.
I know that for some of these search committees, sometimes it takes, so it sounds like it's going to start usually in the fall and into the spring. Is there any way that it could carry into summer? When we think about nominations, if someone's graduating or moving,
I suppose it's possible, but the anticipation for the chancellor search is I think that even though we're going to be settling with a president for his latest sort of starting for the next academic year, so they wouldn't start until like July or August or in the summer. The idea is still trying to find a new chancellor to begin the next academic year also in that summer. And so the committee work part as far as the advisory for the search, I would say would probably very well likely be completed by the summer term beginning, but that can change as well. The entire search process for president and or the chancellor changed pretty substantially. Originally, we were supposed to be basically completed with the search for a chancellor at this point by the end of this fall term. So it can change, and then that's not a huge issue. We can have someone replaced as part of that process, or we can figure it out, or we can certainly advocate for it. That shouldn't necessarily disqualify someone from capacity that they might want to.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. I'm also looking to make appointments to the executive board if that's something someone is interested in. Our executive board helps guide the overall policy and affairs and management of GPSC. I will be trying to firm those up probably in our next meeting with the approval of the council. Also need to lock in our constitutional committee that comes from the resolution from the previous year. And if someone has any interest in that, continue to reach out to me on it, and I'll probably try and put forward the nominations for appointment to the council in our next meeting. Continuing thanks for the membership representation drive for all of our programs. There's a number of you that have reached out about that. Thank you much. And anybody that wants to get involved as far as that goes, definitely appreciate it. More announcement stuff. Working with the provost office on a number of different things that could be coming up. One is pretty cool. There's going to be the potential to go and do some presentation, sort of like a small kind of colloquium, is my understanding, for multicultural diversity things, whether that's curriculum, academics, or just sort of society in general, I believe would be the scope. Over at, I always get the community colleges wrong because I'm not from here, Red Lake. It would be over at Red Lake. So if that piques an interest, just let me know. But still setting up the planning meetings for that, as well as a number of others. Something that's come up in the last couple of weeks is potentially organized for some other divisions on the campus, something for an RSO meet and greet type of thing, in the sense of establishing, like, hey, here's our experience doing this, here's some helpful knowledge about how to run your organization. Something that we can consider. I also have scheduled with Graduate Assistants United, so the union that represents all graduate assistants on campus and negotiates the contract that all graduate assistants have. We have scheduled for a Know Your Rights presentation from them for November 19th. So we will have them as a guest counsel on November 19th. Oh, and the last thing, Alumni Association collaboration. We're looking for some things to potentially do with the Alumni Association, particularly in the sense of like our big event that we did last year in the Smokies in Springfield. That was one of the big things that came out of that. We met with a lot of alumni that were already up in Springfield, and so we started talking last year about the potential of, if we did something similar to that, that we could do it with alumni and the Alumni Association in Springfield. And so as we were talking about that, I thought, well, that would be pretty cool to have some of us come up and like do a presentation as far as research or the creative activity or whatever it is that our students are doing, to get that chance to talk about what we're doing, do that in a venue where we can connect with a number of legislators as well as politicos, as well as then incorporating it in our Alumni Association, because they really enjoy that stuff. And I think that would be a kind of a cool idea. It's something to pursue that's a bigger sort of event that is like emotional. I can't think of the words that I might want to use for that, but it's an idea that working with, we'll shop that through our executive board as well as anybody else who finds that interesting. And I believe that's everything that I have for points. I apologize for time. And the one question that I actually forgot to ask you on your report, Dr. Shi, with the strategic plan, when was that scheduled to try and go before the council?
He said the next graduate council meeting. So.
Was that in October?
Yeah.
Probably like in October.
Yeah, I think it's.
Or,
yeah, it's a ways away. I have to look into my calendar.
Yeah, I think it's third Thursdays.
Yeah, so it's actually October 3rd is the next general council. Yeah, so he said he wanted to bring it before the council. Right.
Didn't he send us an email us like 2 weeks?
Which would be that meeting about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he said it. Yeah. Okay.
Nowish.
I thought he said it was fast too. Okay. 2 weeks. So 2 weeks would have been, yeah, nowish actually, you're right. Yeah, because the last meeting was the 5th. Yeah, so actually it should be nowish. So we should, as the council.
We'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about reaching out in the sense of scheduling a visit for council with him.
Yes.
And then especially timing that in the sense of, well, so he's got this.
Because he wants feedback from us
ready for
anyway.
the council, and then, yeah, you can bring that and deliver that.
That's actually good. So I would say that he said he'll bring it, and he's right, 2 weeks in, which is nowish, but he definitely said he wanted to bring it by the next council meeting, which is the 5th. So we're gonna schedule it, I would say, schedule it for, what is it, the 8th is the next? No, the 15th. 15th.
No, we'll get it worked out.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them. All right. Is there any questions, any discussion as a part of my report? I feel like I'm roasted over time. But any questions? Any discussion? Yeah. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item.
No, it's not
Committee reports, I didn't get any feedback from anyone for committee or reports from committees. Partly, I suppose, because we have not appointed persons to many of those committees. But I see many of you have signed up, and so I'll take that opportunity that I haven't taken yet to say thank you. And I'll be reaching out on those following up. Usually under committee reports, it's all right if you don't send a message to say, hey, I have a report from XYZ or committee. As far as a note for the future, oftentimes we'll just have that on the agenda, and then you can say, oh, hey, yeah, I had a little mention from this committee, and that's fine. You don't have to pre-submit anything.
I do have a question. This
Yeah.
isn't so much a committee report because we haven't met in the fall. Last spring, I was on the Computing Advisory Committee, and that's where you got to see, this is from an outside sender. You know, the red warning that you get on top of every single email is from someone from the outside. So we were going to come back in the fall and discuss what student feedback was. Like this, because really what we're looking at is obviously we get a lot of scans that come through our emails, and for those who might be international students or who are undergraduates who may not be as savvy of, you know, what to look out for, it was kind of a, I don't know, something in place for them. But our concern was that it was just eventually going to be a tune out, something that just appears, you just eventually stop noticing it, and it loses its effect, and or a super annoyance. So I'm kind of curious, so when I go back to this meeting to kind of get feedback from this room, what do you think about this? It was kind of a summertime experiment is really what we were doing, or a spring/summertime. Yes.
Give you the option to turn it off.
So okay, so I think that's good. That's good feedback, because that's the thing I think that they can do, is giving you the option to opt out, which we did, that was a discussion that we did come up in committee. Yes.
I've noticed maybe it's just on my emails that that warning shows up for emails that I actually want from professors, but it doesn't show up for spam. So I actually still get spam, but it doesn't show that. And I just know which ones are spam, so I kind of filter it out.
Right.
And so it may just be mine. I see the message on emails.
Is it coming from when your professors are emailing you? Are they emailing you from a personal or a SIU account?
And that's the thing.
I checked today because I got one from.
Right. We utilize Twin, Westlaw as well, and our professors get email from that.
Okay.
So it's almost like an outside.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've started to hear random feedback from people who don't realize I'm on that committee. They're like, these wordings.
I think it is because it's fun.
What's that, Ben?
No, they can't like reduce it, or if they can't PDF not that, then the piece like reduces to external in red. I don't need to see this message is from anything, that's just like,
Yeah.
goes up the entire.
Yeah,
It does take up such a large portion of that.
It does.
that part of
That's
it,
why you
yeah.
can't click on it, but it's still, but it's a major.
Yeah, some are larger. I don't know. I noticed that some language seems like longer. Are they changed the language a little
Yeah,
bit?
on those, on my phone, it's going through, I can say great words in the intro.
Okay, external email alert. All right, that can easily simplify that. Yes.
A lot of my important emails that I'm supposed to be getting from like a secondary employer off campus are going directly to spam with that same external warning.
Okay.
And it's like people with whom I've had correspondence since before, and I've even gone in and flagged it saying this is not spam. And I'm still not getting stuff.
Okay, so that's good feedback. I like the opt-out option.
Yeah.
Because I think most of us get it. We understand how to use email.
We're just not.
Yeah. Not click on clickbait, things like that. But also so that doesn't prevent things from falling into spam. All right, that's good feedback for me. Thanks for your time. Sorry about that.
Good. Anything else for committee reports? All right, seeing none, move on to good of the order. Anything anyone has to contribute as part of the meeting? Discussion, questions, announcements? We got some announcements.
So the Swipe Out Poker event is going on right now. If you have any students, maybe let them know. What it is the students who are in the dining hall and have the dining passes can donate their guest passes up to 3. And they will go to students who are facing food insecurity, and that will be undergraduate and graduate students that will be able to get those swipes. So I believe in the past 2 days I've gotten almost 200 swipes. And I believe they're in front of for the next 2 days. I think they were in True Blood this past 2 days. Yeah, so we'll be in front of Lens tomorrow from 10:30 to 1 and 5 to 7:30. And Thursday, September.
Is there, like, if we went to send out an email to our students, is there something that to connect them to more information? Is there a webpage that's been created or anything like that?
Wellness.siu.edu.
Okay.
/swipe-out-hunger.
All right, thanks.
There is nothing further for the council. I would entertain.
So the law school has an event coming up too, right? The race or the run. What's the registration like for that? I want to know a little bit more about the event.
All I know is it's $20 a person.
Okay.
I think it's 20 for students, 25 for non-students. You get a shirt. 9 a.m. October 6th?
Yes, October 6th, 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. And then we're all going to meet from the law school building. And I can email you the link for you to sign up. But you sign up and you'll receive a shirt, and you're correct, it's 20 or 25, depending if you're a student or not. You can bring your dogs, which that was a huge selling point for me. See,
She posted the route too. I'm not sure on what page, but there's like a route around where it is.
Okay. You're allowed to walk.
Big fan of that,
Big fan of that.
especially if I bring a dog.
It's just 5K.
It's just
Yeah,
a
it's just a
5K.
5K.
Yeah.
So, you know, do it for the shirt.
Thanks. I saw the signs up. I just wanted to know more about it. Thanks.
I'm gonna walk it, I'm gonna share this.
I support that. I support power walking. It's actually an Olympic event.
Oh, no, it's good in the order, I mean, it's all good.
So,
There's nothing further for the council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. No motion, is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you. Our next meeting is October 1st, same time.
I could ask.
Yeah.